WCAP, Merrimack Valley Radio. In the morning, it's already 7:48. Wow. Time flies here. Gerry Nutter, Jose, Deandra,
Yes, sir.
all present and accounted for. And we are joined now by Harini Aiyer.
Aiyer.
Aiyer, okay,
Yeah.
pretty close.
There's an R in there.
Yeah. And she's a candidate for state representative. And by the way, uh, I'm being told we are now on Facebook.
Just recording it. I'll upload it later.
Oh, okay. So Jose's recording us. If you've ever wondered what we look like in the morning, at least I'm dressed nicely today. Good morning, Merrimack Valley. All right. Good morning. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody?
Well, thank you, Gerry. Thank you, Jose, for having me here. My name is Harini Aiyer. The way you say it is higher without the H sound. So there's an R in there. Sometimes I just go by Panini because it's easier for people to remember. Although that won't appear in the ballot. So you have to remember my real name. I am right now running for as the state rep candidate for 17th Middlesex, which includes, as you said, Belvedere, but also includes South Lower, Back Central, downtown, and a little sliver of the Lower Highlands, which is where I am lucky to live. So I moved to Lower in 2021. I'm a transplant to Lower, like many people. Before that, I have lived in Kentucky, Virginia, and Wisconsin. I came to the US in 2000 to do a PhD from the University of Kentucky. And I continued on postdoc at the University of Louisville. Then I went to Georgetown University for another postdoc. From Georgetown, I moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin as a research scientist. Then I founded 2 startups when I was in Milwaukee, and then I exited the startups and joined the corporate sector as SLR. And I have been in the corporate sector for 8 years. And I moved to Massachusetts, so I'm in the biotech sector. So I work with research labs, both in academia and biopharma industry, to sell them equipment that is, scientific equipment. So technically, I do technical consultation and figure out what their problem is and find the right solution and, lay it out. And these are not, it's not your average $200 microscope. These are like very expensive equipment. So you have to do a lot of negotiation and laying out what it would look like. So there's a lot of strategy involved. So that's what I have been doing. Yeah. So that's a little bit about me.
What made you decide to jump into politics and jump into the state reference?
I do believe in that, what Gandhi said, be the change that you wish to see. Yeah. And oftentimes each of us are working to make our community better in every way that we can, right? You work with the high school kids, like all of us are doing it. And I have been doing it in Rome as well. But oftentimes with the way the current situation is playing out, we can do a lot more when there is policy involved. Policy that can impact many people. And right now, Lowell needs a very strong advocate at the State House. And I believe that I can be that advocate. So why am I running? In 2019, when I became a naturalized citizen, I took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. And as I see constitutional rights being impacted, but mostly economic rights. Like what is happening is like this trickle down effect, right? Like they say trickle down economics don't work, but when it's bad up top, it does trickle down. And the people at the bottom are the people that are suffering the most, right? And I feel called to do something about it. And here is an opportunity for me to create that impact.
So just touching on a couple of the high profile questions that are going on at the state level. The auditor
Mm.
talking about auditing the legislature. What's your feeling on that?
Having worked as a scientist and having worked in the corporate sector, I am all about efficiency, right? And efficiency has to happen everywhere. And we all understand, living in Massachusetts, that Massachusetts legislature can be very inefficient. So I do not see a problem in taking a look at it as a scientist, right? Like if my experiment is not working, I'm going to take a look at all of the variables that go in and figure out which one is impacting my experiment. Why can't we do the same thing for the legislator? Any problem worth solving is worth reflecting upon and investigating and finding out where things can be made more efficient. And I am for more efficiency, especially now when we have to, when we have limited resources, efficiency becomes very important.
Mhm.
So,
No, no, absolutely, and I think that's one of the biggest things. We voted 72% of the voters, which we talked about this before. Not like that really reflects 72% of the population, because we
Yeah.
talked about the voter turnout and that. So regardless, why are we giving her such a hard time to do the audit? A and B, like you said, I mean, look at what we're dealing with the budget here right now. A lot of it was because we're not getting that state money, we're not getting that federal money.
yeah,
So shows where our money's going at the state level, because that has such an impact on what's happening here, the chapter 70 money, the funding our services, everything like that. So absolutely, I don't understand what the pushback is. Let us take a look.
you're right. You're right. And oftentimes, and I don't know what their reasoning is because they have not made us aware of it.
It depends what room they're in.
Right? I see that there are some, and mm, let me tell you a little story about from from my life that makes me kind of curious about how to solve this problem. Yeah. When I was in Milwaukee, I was laid off suddenly, and I lost my job, and I was, kind of in this interim period of figuring out what to do next. And I do triathlons for fun, and I used to swim in Lake Michigan, like starting in April. So, uh,
No, I had your
Yeah.
reflection.
I'm on the same boat as you.
that gives you kind of an idea of why, like, I take on challenges, right?
Sure does.
And so I had a bunch of friends, crazy people like me, who used to swim with me as well. And two of them called me and said, "Hey, we are working with this scientist who is an inventor. He invented this new technology, and we are trying to convert it to become commercialized. And we are stuck. We have been working on this problem for 6 months, and they have to do all this stuff, and they are not able to figure it out. And you have a PhD. Why don't you come and take a look?" Like it was just like, "Hey, we are at the end of the thing." And I was like, "Okay, I mean, I don't have anything else to do right now." So I went, I talked, like, we had a conversation, and I'm listening to them saying, like, "This is what we're trying to do. We're trying this, we're trying this, we're trying this." I'm like, "Did you ever try to turn it on its head and like do it this way? Because from what you're telling me, it looks like it would work better this way." It took me 20 minutes to solve their problem. And why is that? Right? These were very smart people, right? That night they went and did it the way I said, and it worked. And the people, my friends who are the founders of this company, were like, "Would you want to work here?" And I'm like, okay, that's how, like I say, like I founded two startups. That was the story of the one of the startups, right? And why did it take me only 20 minutes to solve a problem that these people had been struggling with for 6 months? Am I smarter than them? Am I more experienced? It was an outsider's perspective.
We get stuck in redundancy sometimes,
Yeah.
and we just keep trying to hammer away, and it's like, no,
Yeah.
step back
Mhm.
and take a different approach.
Mhm.
The same outcome, but take a different approach.
And a fresh set of eyes.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think that is, so connecting it back to the question that you asked, right? You need a fresh set of eyes that is, I mean, I'm not even talking about fresh set of eyes as in a new legislator, a fresh set of eyes that has not already been like in the system. Oftentimes what happens is like we are a democracy, right? But the minute somebody,
I'm sorry to just interrupt for a second,
okay,
but when we're coming up to the top of the hour break, we're gonna get taken off automatically
okay,
with national news, and then we'll do some local news, weather, traffic. Do you have time to stay with us
Yes.
for another segment?
Yes.
We'll keep her with us. Again, introduce yourself to everybody.
Well, my name is Harini Aiyer, and I am running as the candidate for state rep for Middlesex 17th, which consists of Lowell at Tewksbury and Belvedere, South Central, Back Central, and downtown in Lowell.
All right, we'll be back here on 980 WCAP.
Of the most important expenses from anybody's paycheck. And when that gets, that becomes so much that people have to think about um, whether or not they get to put a roof over their head or food on their plate, that's a horrible situation to be in. And I say that as a person that was formerly unhoused, and I experienced that housing instability. But when I was an early career scientist, when I had just moved to Milwaukee, I had some medical debt, and I was living paycheck to paycheck because they don't really pay you the big bucks when you're doing in your early career. And I had a bad boss, got laid off, and boom, like I could apply for unemployment insurance. Thankfully, I had the Affordable Care Act, but still did not make enough money to pay the rent. And as then the immigration status didn't allow me housing assistance, right? And thanks to friends, I could stay with them on the couch and lived out of my car for a bit, and I was single. Now imagine that for a family of four, or somebody with pets, or somebody that is older. That would be very, very bad. So the idea of rent stabilization is not about like, oh, we need to give them all of this that they don't deserve, but it is more of stabilizing the economy. We did it. We did it during COVID. We did it very effectively. And we see that right now the economy is struggling. And that is a keystone piece that is holding it together. The minute we shake it, it's going to start to cause domino effects. So that is what that rent stabilization is about, right? To give the people that are already working 2 or 3 jobs to put food on the table, to pay maybe like 60 to 70% of their paycheck as rent. And we need to take a look at like what that rent is bringing them, right? And people will be like, oh, cost of living increase, right? But is that actually having like having an impact? If you have a landlord that has 4 or 5 renters that has paid off the property and that's just using the property as a revenue generation machine, is that fair that they continue to increase the rent while some of the people have to make a decision of going unhoused. And that is the question that is on the ballot. That's what that is about. And I believe that people should have a roof over their head if their basic need right. Yeah.
So playing devil's advocate, isn't that what, isn't that what fair trade and it's all about, they're trying to make money on their property and they've invested in it, they've maintained it, they're invested in the city. So why is it wrong for them to be able to make money? As you said, their cost of insurance on multifamily houses is through the roof right now. It's very expensive. So, why should landlords who have invested in these properties, especially the ones who maintain and keep them, because we know in the city of Lowell we have a lot of terrible landlords,
Yeah.
but we also have some very good ones.
Yeah.
So why shouldn't they be allowed to increase? So with the cost of everything going up, so is it just to cap how much they can raise?
It's a very good question. So your question is basically capitalism works like this. Why shouldn't it work? But I'll give you actually an answer that works with your capitalism question. Okay. As a landlord, let's say I am a landlord, right? Would I prefer a tenant that will stay and pay me, let's say the rent for that unit is $2,000. Okay. And that $2,000 is stretching my tenant, and the tenant is deciding between living in Lowell and paying 2,000, or like moving elsewhere. That's the important question. Second is, would I rather have that $2,000 in rent or increase it to 2,200 because the inflation's 6%, right? Like, so I want to stay above the inflation, so I raise it to whatever, 2,100, 2,200. Would I rather do that and lose the tenant and have my unit be empty for whatever months, like 3 months? Every month adds to that, right? Like, and so I don't think the rent stabilization is a bad idea, even for the landlords that are maintaining, that are that are keeping up with the thing. And one more thing, right? Like, it's an ecosystem thing, right? You take away one little bit of the ecosystem, it's going to impact the entire neighborhood. So that is very important to keep in mind.
So right before I run out the door, head to work, and Jose's going to take over. He'll be here till 9 o'clock, so keep it here on 980 WCAP. But a texter on the Milltown Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electric text line 978-454-4980 said, we've all acknowledged the cost of going up for everyone, but with rent control stabilization, landlords will not improve their properties, and when renters refuse to pay their rent, the landlords are forced to bring them to court, which can take several months, and they're left holding the bag. Remember, most of the rentals are already, or a lot of the rentals are subsidized by the government under Section 8. Not all. A lot of us pay privately.
So again, this is a complex problem, so there is not going to be one simple solution for solving this. And I think what we should really think about is what are all the different solutions that can be applied, right? And I appreciate that there is nuance in this, right? There is going to be different solutions that can be applied for those who are on Section 8 and get some of their rent subsidized. Again, this is not about not paying the rent. It is about paying a rent that can be like where the budget can be planned for, say, 1-2 years, like, like where there is some kind of a budget stability for the individual working family. That's what the rent stabilization is about. But for those people, for those landlords that are going to give up like maintaining the property, we could think about about a tenant's bill of rights. What do the landlords owe? And there's always room for improvement, right? Like the way we are seeing this is as if this is a fixed problem with no solution. I always think that there is going to be creative ways to solve it. And that's what I look to provide.
I think that Jerry mentioned it perfectly. Where if you look at the insurance,
Mhm.
there's so many different avenues that are causing the problem. It's not just
Yeah. Yeah.
if we were to pass the rent stabilization,
Mhm.
that's not going to overnight fix the current situation. Somebody just texted into the Milton Employment Heating and Cooling Electrical Text line. The average American cannot afford 2,000 per month for rent.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
So it's not just this is a step in the right direction, at least a conversation starter. And we there's so many things we need to look
Right.
at.
Yeah. Actually, the thing that would, wages have not kept up with inflation at all, right? Wages have grown. People always point to, oh, wages have grown. But wages have not grown enough for people to feel secure about the expenses that they are experiencing. While wages have not grown, you had rent go up, energy expenses go up, and food go up.
And we just
Right.
stay the same.
Yeah, and here's what, and I think this is where the core of it, what would you do to this, right? Like, I see an easy solution to this problem. And I say this in jest because there are no easy solutions. There's always going to be nuances. But here is one thing to consider. How about taking venture capital firms out of food, housing, and energy?
Yeah, and you brought up energy. That's a big thing right here in the state. We're top 3 on energy costs. Why?
Yeah.
Why is it more expensive to heat our homes or cool our homes here than it is in anywhere else? There's 47 states cheaper than us. And these other things, it's a complex issue because, like I said, just lowering the rent
Mm-hmm.
or, all right, so your rent's not going to go up that $50, $100.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to make it so that now you can take that vacation or you can take that day off so you can spend, oh, I'm going to leave work early today so I can go see my kids' dance recital or, soccer game or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to, it's just such a broad spectrum. And I would love to, what do we have, like 30 seconds left?
Yeah, about a minute.
All right, we got about a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to dive into something too detailed and
Yeah.
then we go over, but these are conversations that I've said it on here before. When I have somebody like yourself, number one, you're funny, you're smart, thank you for coming in today, but that is running for a elected position. It's a job in it.
Mm-hmm.
I told you earlier, let's have fun, this and that, but let's have that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this is where people really get to know you
Yeah.
as a candidate. We were just having a candid,
Yeah.
fun conversation,
Yeah.
and they get to see how you
Yeah.
think about things, how you think on your feet. You brought sign up earlier. There's negotiation.
Yeah.
When you're in there, you're going to be negotiating for
Yeah.
Lowell and that sliver of
Yeah.
Tewksbury.
Yeah.
So how are you going to, nothing too crazy today, but let's just talk about these things and
Yeah.
see how you think on your feet and have fun.
Absolutely. You know what? I appreciate your trust in me, and I am not going to shy away from hard questions.
Yeah.
I may not have all of the answers, but I'll try my best.
I would hope you wouldn't, but we'll be back from the break
Yeah.
soon. Here at the Nash Casino, we'll see you in about 10 minutes? Not even. So, all right, we'll be back soon.
Okay.
But and that's the thing, hot mic. And that's the thing. We gotta. It's not all about. Well, good morning, everybody. Again, this is our last segment here today. before we go back to Harini, I
Yes.
said it right. Somebody texted in right before the break. Who are the other candidates that your guest is running against? So we have Anthony Lane and John Drinkwater. I had Anthony Lane on last week, I believe it was, the week before that, but it was more talking about the fires in Centerville. Hopefully, he'll come in and actually sit down and talk about his candidacy. John Drinkwater, if you're listening or anybody you know is listening, reach out to me or Gerry or somebody, and we want people to get out there and vote. And they're not gonna do that if they don't know who the candidates are. But we were having a great conversation off air, touching on a little bit of everything. And anybody that listens to me on air, as much as I like to talk about policy and everything else, I like to build up to it. Where we just have a normal conversation, then we slip in a policy thing into it, or you've been talking about that policy and you didn't even realize it because we're talking about ducks,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like I say all the time, that's what I need people, at least from my perspective, to know who you are.
Yeah.
Because you can come up here and you can give us lip service all you want.
Mhm.
You can read off a script.
Yeah.
I've seen that when I was campaigning where people would show up and they have a briefcase, they have ants, which, hey, you're prepared. I show up and I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
Talk to me. What do you want to know?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but this is the way I look at it. That's why I have colleagues that can help me look at a different perspective.
Yeah.
So, Harini, let me see if I haven't said your last name, so I'm going to try. Aiyer.
Perfect.
Oh, look at that.
Perfect. Yes.
So we have it here. You guys have any questions for her, text in? And you were saying something that kind of, you're right. You came here from India on a scholarship to Kentucky, which I don't know too many people that are, rushing to go to Kentucky, other than for the Kentucky Derby to see the ponies.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you were, your first job, coming off of your degree, and you ended up bouncing, which I found out. Erin helped me with that. It's called underhouse.
Yes.
I did not know that. I just
Yeah.
found that out the other day. There you go, Erin. I use it. I hope you're listening. And then you mentioned the Affordable Care Act. So you're not just coming in here as a successful scientist you've had shared experiences with the people you're trying to represent.
Yeah.
So whether it is now that you've built your career, you've busted your tail to get where you are today, or back then, those experiences don't go away.
Yeah.
So now you're looking again. We talked about real quick energy costs.
Yeah.
It's crazy. What do we do? I mean,
See, Massachusetts finds itself in the middle of a perfect storm, need to meet its energy goals, like energy sadness, even worse, right? Um, we depend on gas that we do not produce, and we have made all of these gas infrastructure that we are paying for, and gas prices have gone up. Yeah, and we are so linked to that, like uh, external energy source, that we are basically stuck with something that we didn't know was going to be so bad, right? Like, I mean, like, sure, climate change is real, and we have had a couple of warm winters, so we forgot how bad winters could be up here. And this year, we felt it. We felt it not just on the sidewalks, but in our pocketbook. Yeah. And then there is, on top of that, there is the predatory aspect of third-party sellers, which I have so much uh, hatred. I don't use that word lightly, but people that would prey on, you know,
vulnerable
immigrants.
seniors,
Vulnerable
people
seniors,
struggling.
people who don't know the language, to take advantage of their, of their, lack of knowledge, lack of information. That is the most horrible thing that you can do in society, right? Anyway, so we find ourselves in the eye of a potential. So for me, energy independence is going to be the key to solve this problem. Yes, we are in pain right now, but you know what creates change? When the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of changing, we automatically change. And we are right now like perfect for it. What are some things that we can do at the state level that can help address this? Right, like there is already an energy bill right now that there is a Senate version and there is a governor's version and there's going to be some reconciliation. And there are some good news in that bill for low and mid income residents. Some breaks in some support. There is definitely that. But beyond that, what we can do, definitely turning to renewable energy sources is going to be key. But we can do the creative approach. So there are many states that are passing balcony solar legislation, right? Like, so where you can like solar energy has become so cheap right now that you can get a solar panel that, produces multiple watts, and, you can use that to defray part of the cost of your energy.
Yeah,
Right?
it offsets it
Yeah,
alleviates
offset.
a little bit of the burden.
Alleviates, you generate some. Well, I mean, and I'm not saying that has to be the only solution. That's a start because that
Yeah.
is accessible. Okay. Another thing that is accessible is some kind of an independence from gas. Okay. And one of the things in this, like, sometimes when you solve one problem, another problem gets solved, right? Implementing the stretch code so that new apartments don't have to have gas for cooking. They can do stretch code where they can do either electric or induction.
Because some people argue the fact that and we have a textbook that some of these stretch codes are making building, so much less affordable than it was because now certain programs, like certain subsidized housing, in order for them to be built, it's zero parking. So now instead of building 40 units, you can only build 25. So it's one of those where it's a tough situation.
It is, it's always everybody is walking a knife edge. I am not like discounting that, but creative solutions can, like, see, if you put money as the only end goal, and I say that, like, people in economics, we have this, you do, right? Like, what is the input cost, what do you sell it for, and what is your revenue, like, these are internal costs, right? But nobody ever takes into account the external costs of doing business, right? If you go into a neighborhood and you are doing business at the cost of the neighborhood, right? Like, what happens is while your business may be doing well, everything around you is going to be impacted. And if you don't take that into account, you're not going to resolve the problem. And so with the energy cost, you're right. There's going to be like these net zero goals are going to, but like if you can cut out gas for cooking, you're going to reduce a certain amount of energy for that. And you can slowly transition away from fossil fuel. And it's like pain in the short term for gain in the long term. That is what we are trying to achieve. But in the meanwhile, like what can we allow people to do to alleviate part of that? I think like the balcony solar is an excellent example of
I love
like
that.
giving people the opportunity to do something like, and this is not infrastructure. People are like, oh, what will the solar do to the roof? You're not going to put it on the roof. Like right now, like solar panels are like this thin, like they are a dime, as thick as a dime or a quarter.
it's not the same, but I have a little porch.
Yeah.
I live
Yeah.
on the third floor,
Yeah.
and I have a light. You
Mhm.
know, go out there
Yeah.
and hang out over there.
Yeah.
So I went to Lowe's and they had on sale those little light. And I mean, I
Yeah.
had to kind of,
Mhm.
figure it out.
Yeah.
But I got them out there, and now
Yeah.
my porch is lit up. It
Yeah.
doesn't cost me anything.
Yeah.
And I can go out there, and then, if I'm keeping the light off in the summer, spiders go out there because it's dark, and you don't want to go out there.
Yeah.
But now with those
Yeah.
solar lights,
Yeah.
and again, it doesn't cost me a cent.
Yeah.
And they were on sale for like $4.
Yeah.
So I bought a bunch of them, put
Yeah.
them up there.
Yeah.
The whole porch is lit up, and
Yeah.
but that's why I like that idea. That's the thing.
Yeah.
We need to have those conversations with. So real quick, somebody here at the Nash Casino Studio
Mhm.
on the Milltown Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical text line texted in, and they said, "What ideas does your guest have for bringing more money into the state, cities, and towns?" Sorry, but when I have to scroll down, it kind of,
Yeah.
what state and city programs will she cut back on and change if landlords sell their properties? Can new owners set their own rent? That's a good question.
So, can you repeat the last part of the question? Sorry.
Yeah, this was like a
Yeah.
three-part question.
Yeah.
So, what state and city programs would she cut back on and change? And then the last one was, if landlords sell their properties, can new owners set their own rents? I think that's touching back on the rent stabilization.
So I'm going to answer that first because I have a ready answer for it. I have prepared on that right
Okay.
now. And the second one, I am going to have to take a deeper look at before I, say it. But I'm going to take that question home, do the homework on it, and next time I come, I'm going to address that. So
Okay.
mark it down.
Oh,
Okay.
I have
Yeah.
for construction work,
Yeah.
I have a pretty good memory, and I'll remember that. Next time I'll see you, I'll be like,
Yeah, I will never devalue you as a construction worker. I have a lot of respect for what you do, Jose.
okay.
But regarding when the landlord sells, let's go back to that question. Actually, I love that the texter asked that question. Thank you, where you are. I think we need to start looking at housing affordability. So the way I look at housing is there are 3 S's, right? You have the supply, you have the stability, and you have the subsidy. Okay. So the supply is like, if we want everybody to be a homeowner, and why do we want everybody to be a homeowner? Because when you own a home, you are invested. The minute I bought my condo in Lower Highlands, I clean up the street because I don't want my street to be littered. I walk my dog and I pick up trash. That is why we want homeownership, right? Like it is.
The broken window theory.
Exactly. And we also want people to know their neighbors, that there's not like a, merry-go-round of people coming and going, so there is like, it breeds community integration. Okay. That's it. First class, like the tenants of a particular, if it is a landlord that is selling, the tenant should be offered an opportunity to buy the house if they can. I'm a big supporter of these opportunities where if somebody has lived in a house, like if they are renting something for like 5 years or 10 years, which is what's happening right now, right? They shouldn't just be like, hey, I'm paying you, you're here. How can we make them become stewards of not just the property, but also of the community? Right?
I've been in my place for 15 years.
Yeah.
I know all the neighbors, everybody knows me.
Yeah, exactly.
We have that sense of community
Yeah.
where
And if you are a renter, think about like, oh, there is a possibility that if this comes on the market, I will be able to buy it.
Mhm.
That renter is going to take care of the property much better than if they say, yeah, I don't care. This guy is somebody that's charging me rent, whatever, right? And that's how that law will impact. And it impacts landlords also in a better way, right?
So if we start having, I think at the state level, we could probably do something like more of a rent to own initiative where we
Exactly.
start pushing that, because like you said, if you own something and you actually live on that property, you have more pride in that because now it's like, no, well, if this is affecting me, it's affecting my tenants, or I don't get to use the backyard because it's a mess. I want to keep it clean for our tenants. We have about 6
Okay.
So I mean, and I think that I like that idea where we start pushing the rent to own narrative because A, it creates generational wealth.
Yeah.
B, it creates more of that sense of community in that neighborhood where the landlord, the owner, isn't just going to bring in whoever that's just going to pay.
Yeah.
So they're going to want good neighbors living across from them, and they're going to take more pride in their property.
Yeah.
So I like that idea. Definitely push more of a rent to own kind of narrative.
Yeah, and rent to own. So if you look at like what does it cost to own, right? There is cost of the credit worthiness, and I have actually a plan for that, right? If you are a renter, right now, landlords don't have to report if you are paying your rent on time to the credit bureaus. But if you don't pay your rent on time, and you have one bad payment, they can report you to the credit bureau and your credit worthiness gets affected, right? What if we make it so that your on-time rent payments automatically gets reported to the credit bureau? And I know immediately landlords will like, that's one more thing for us to do. Okay, let's think about it. Okay, if you have automatic pay systems, and then the automatic pay systems are already there, okay, especially if you're a big landlord, it is just going to be an add-on. And trust me, there will be a startup that will be like, we can do this. We will write the API code to your property pay, and boom, it can be done. It's not difficult. Okay, but what does that make it for those like average millennials who are renting longer and longer? When they have rented for 2 years or 5 years, all of their on-time rent payment is going to actually show up in their credit worthiness so that when they apply for a mortgage, they're going to get better rates.
I like that. I've never heard any. Oh, I've never heard any talk because you're right. Like a lot of people don't want to get that on that part. I didn't have a car payment until about 4 years ago because I refused to.
Yeah.
I'd rather buy a couple cars, breaks down, buy another one. Let's go.
And that's the thing, right? Like if you're an immigrant, you're like, you are so focused on living debt free, but America actually rewards you for having debt and paying it on time.
That's what I always said. So I'm the bad guy here because I got cash instead of a credit card. Like I used to freak out about it all the time. Like, don't worry about my credit. I got cash. What do you need? So we had a text come in. Sorry, I got distracted for a second. The mayor was walking by and was waving. So it said, we had the idea decades ago that everyone should, on the Milltown Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical text line, we had the idea decades ago that everyone should be able to buy a home with little money down. Unfortunately, the amount of foreclosures that followed was unbelievable. People just walked away because they had no money invested in the down payment. That was what caused the financial crisis of 2008. I believe that's what they're talking about there. They chopped up the mortgages and sold them off to China. Legend claims.
Right. And we can talk about that, but it's not the only thing that caused exactly. Sorry. But here's what, like, and there are already things in place because right now you have to go through mortgage education before you can apply and get a mortgage, right? Like if you apply for a mortgage, the lender makes you go through these, like, have you taken these lessons? Have you read this? Right? If you are a first-time home buyer, there is always stuff that you can learn.
Maryland Valley Housing.
Yes, exactly.
You take the course, they make sure your finances are good. They walk you through the whole process. And when I said that, Texter, I didn't mean we were going to talk about your the 2008.
Yeah.
We don't have enough time to talk about
exactly.
that. But and that's a lot of the things you were saying. It's like, I agree with because I know there's people like Kathy over there that are trying to get this information out to people that are trying to help.
Yeah.
And the fact of your on-time rent payment actually having a positive impact of your rent on your credit score. I love that because technically, what's the difference between that and making a credit card payment?
Yeah.
I would hope your credit card payment isn't $2,000 every month, but
And if you're a homeowner and you make on-time mortgage payments, that improves your credit worthiness, right?
if you're a renter, it doesn't.
Exactly. Why should it be? Especially now, like before, it used to be like 25, 30 years ago, you used to, graduate from college, rent for 1 or 2 years, and then go on to buy a house. Now we don't have that luxury.
Oh, when you can get a big old house for $200,000, now you can't even get a shack for it.
Exactly, exactly. And those are the things, right? Like, so we fix the problem that we have, not like what would we have fixed in 2008, or like, I see this as a low hanging fruit, like low hanging fruit.
Mhm.
Same like, converting, like I think the courthouse is going to be converted into housing. Okay, don't put all like fancy housing anytime you convert. Make it purposefully into mixed use and mixed income.
Yeah.
Mixed income, provide the subsidy. I'll tell you, like what the state can do easily, that rent to own you talked about. How about we take some of that risk at the state level and make these people like sign up for that rent to own, and they live there and they give back.
You're gonna have to come back on the Thursday show where we have a lot more time and just have, but time is really short. Can
Okay.
you tell people real quick the elevator pitch, your name, where they can find out more information about you. Just I want to give you that spot there.
Thank you so much. I know time runs fast, right? Like, thank you so much, Jose, for this time. People can find out about me on my website, www.drharini4middlesex17.com. And the reason there's a long name is because Middlesex 17 is so confusing. So I want you to know that I'm running for Middlesex 17 district. And you can go to my website and find out one information. May 21st, Thursday, May 21st, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. I'm having my campaign kickoff event at the Hive in downtown Lowell. So if you guys hear this, come, stop by, say hello to me. I'll be able to talk to you in detail. So I look forward to meeting many of you there.
Well, remember the 21st, the Hive, 5:30.
5:30.
You come on down, shake her hand. She'll make you laugh. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. It's gonna be a warm one out there. And if you don't hear from me till then, I'll see you. I'll be on Thursday. Take care.
Thanks, Jose.
See that's the thing. Like I say, we're good here. So we that's how I like to do more of my interviews.
Yeah.
Like, and then I'm new to this. You're probably like the third person I've interviewed.
Yeah. You're good.
We're like, I don't want to just talk.
Yeah. Look, it has to be like, and to be honest, like you perfectly set me up for that, like, reporting, credit reporting. Like, and I have talked to some of my landlord friends and I was like, what do you use right now? Do you use property? If you're like handling cash or if you're like you're paying in cash, that's going to be difficult. But most people sell payments.
Yes, sir. Oh.